This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 668 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Trust Design. On this week's episode, we have Emily Donaldson, who gives us an update on her Florida season. After that, McIssac talks about how to be good at horse shopping. And then Gwen comes back to give us a great trainer tip.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil.
How was the Derby received in Kentucky?
Well, we had a great time. We went to, because Phil's been here lots for the Derby, and it's one of those things. It is sort of a holiday for us here. Like, not much gets done on that day. Like, we pretty much, everybody takes a day off. Everybody goes to a Derby party. So it is kind of like a holiday. It's funny. Like, some stores are closed. Like, it's really funny. So we went to a local brewery. It's called Country Boy Brewery, and it's super fun. It was actually a really cold and rainy day here. It was actually quite cold. It was in the 40s, I think. I felt like it was in the 40s. Maybe it wasn't, but it was cold. So, there's always big excitement, and everyone's really trying to place their bets. I'm not a betting woman. I always say I literally lose too much money on horses every day. So I try not to.
You don't need to lose any extra.
Yeah.
Your whole life is a bet on a horse.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I literally bet on horses all day, every day. So it's not fun for me. But I don't think anybody saw that one coming. But it was
how was that long shot received in the
I mean, the whole place, like, everyone was like stunned. It was so cool. But I think it was so great for all of us. Number one, just the story behind the horse. I'm no expert in the horse at all. I kind of saw the trainer on the Today Show, and but a $30,000 claiming horse. I think, again, it shows that the underdog still can win, and I think that was really quite cool. So, what do you think, Phil?
Everybody loves an underdog story, except for the people who have the horses against it, kind of thing.
Exactly. And we're spending so much money, But I think in horse sport, I think we all know sometimes it's the day, it's the stars align, and I couldn't be happier for that team. I mean, it sounds like they had a terrible barn fire and lost other horses, and I mean, I think we can all feel for them, and to have them come and have such an amazing day on that kind of stage is awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, that's what sports is all about, right?
Yeah.
Because if the people who are supposed to win and the horse is supposed to win, or the team is supposed to win and does, it's kind of boring. So yeah. It's nice every once in a while to have a long shot or a great story behind it. That's why I'm into all sports. Me
too. I think you and I. That's one of the things we share and enjoy. We both love sports, so it's super fun to see him win and do well, and to watch that jockey ride. I mean, we're all riders, and to see that jockey ride was so cool. Like, it was great. So really enjoyed.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. Awesome. So that was a really, really fantastic story. I think today, and I could be wrong, I was actually just trying to look it up. I think they are not running him in the dirt.
That's what I saw on the headlines. Mm-hmm. He's not going to do the, what's the next one? Belmont?
Breakness? What's next? See again. But again, I think that's cool. We're both like, somebody will tell us, like, excuse me, like, you should know this. But I think that's cool, because I read a quick story before we started recording that, they weren't planning on it. They were, and good for them for not changing their plan, because we've all had horses, we've all had to make plans, and, they won, but I think they're just saying for the health of the horse, they wanted to wait, which I think is pretty cool, which is awesome. So
great stuff. So
we love that. Perfect. We love that story. We're all a fan.
Yeah. I just wish I had like $100 on it or something.
No kidding. Right. Oh, me too. I think everybody, was like, gosh, we really, really wish we had put that down. But of course we didn't. So, which is really cool. Also, Jennifer Schrader Williams, she announced this week that she's retiring Million, which they were such a great combination, and she's just a great supporter, and she's so much fun. So, respect. She got named to the short list to go to Europe. And I had spoken to her in Florida. She was very kind and spoke to the Dressage Foundation group that I had. And she had said that she felt like he didn't owe her anything. So that was really cool. But it looks like the shortlist for the American team for Europe has been announced. And Katie Dorheimer and Paxton are on that list. And Quartet, her other horse that I know is on that list, which is fun. Ben Ebling, Ashley Holzer, Charlotte Yorst, Adrian Lyle, Stephen Peters, Alice Tarjan, and Sarah Tubman. So it'll be fun to see these combinations. There's some.
I think they've all been on our show.
I think they have too. Phil, high five. That's pretty fun. I don't know about Ashley Holzer.
Right? We'll have them back, but that's kind of cool,
Yeah, I don't know about Ashley Holzer, but I think for sure everyone else.
Right. Yeah.
And
all right, that's our goal then to get.
That's our goal, everybody. We'll get Ashley.
Get Ashley on the show when she comes back from Europe. Yeah, perfect.
So that squad was named, which will be really fun. I mean, again, you've got some younger people on that. You've got some very experienced. Obviously, Adrian Lyle and Stephen Peters have been team members now for many years. So it's fun to see them and the young people.
Ashley's been on our team was on our team for a long time too. Don't forget that she's an experienced team rider.
She is. Different country. And Sarah Tubman, it was a gold medalist from the Pan American Games on First Apple. So it's just fun to see this group. And Ben Ebling is awesome. And we're just thrilled. So it'll be a fun group to watch while they're over there. And we will definitely snag them on their way back. But we have a great show today, Phil. We'll get started. We've got a break from Kentucky Performance Products, and then we'll get into the show.
She swallowed hard as they walked into the start box. She could feel his muscles tense under her leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great ride. She didn't have to ask. He galloped out of the box and across the field toward their first training level course. His ears pricked. Her heart pounded. He attacked each obstacle with confidence, clearing them with room to spare. A huge smile broke out on her face as she crossed through the finish flags. She leaned forward and buried her face in his neck. Their bond of love and trust blocked out all else. This love story is brought to you by Elevate. Research proven to have superior bioavailability. Elevate supplies the essential vitamin E often missing from the equine diet. Its all-natural formula supports healthy muscle and nerve functions. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Emily Donaldson on the line. She's been on the show before. She's a favorite of ours, FEI rider and trainer. Emily, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you had a fantastic winter. We would pass each other and wave, but we were both, I think, so busy. We never really got to see each other. So I want to catch up. How was your season this year?
It was good. It's funny because I've gone down. This was my 4th consecutive year going down. And I always get a little anxious before anticipating the drive. And I was thinking about it seems like this yesterday. I was, fretting about the drive, and now boom, it's April and I'm back here. And so it's always very intense, but educational, and it's expensive and challenging, but every time I come home and I feel really good about why I went. And it's sort of for me, it's an opportunity to focus on my own riding and, the handful of clients that go with me and horses. And it ends up being very constructive.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought that point up because, everyone's I always hear oh, you're so lucky to be there. And oh my gosh, but you're absolutely right. I think that's a really good point for anybody that's going to go to Florida or thinking about Florida. the idea of literally moving your life for 3 to 4 months, depending on how long you're there, driving. I mean, it is, I'm always so anxious because you're literally moving. I usually take my assistant with me, my dog, 7, 8 horses. I have to move horses in Kentucky to where they need to be. I got to make sure my cats are, it is actually a pretty huge event to commit to going there. Not only financially too. I mean, just, it's a very stressful.
Emotionally, like it's hard on your, like if you're married or dating or, it's like, I've had some clients that are like, oh, you're so lucky. And I am very fortunate, but it's a compromise. Like, and you always have some clients that you lose, but then there's like a gain, a gain and a loss. And I've had clients question why I do it. And right now I do it because it makes me better. And I don't want to feel like I plateau, and I might get to a point where I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it's like, it is kind of a big deal. Like it's hard, financially, it's hard emotionally, it's like hard relationally. But they're always, the pros outweigh the cons. And it's like, it's also like, I think it's also like dangerous. Like driving down there is always like stressful. And I've had blowouts and, like, it's not something that you do casually, it takes every year you come back and you start planning for the next year. And it's a big deal. And unfortunately, because it's far and it's like, and it's expensive. But
I'm sure
like it's so worth it.
Agreed. And I think too, anybody that goes, like basically you get home and you start saving for the next year. Like I constantly am saving for Florida, it's a constant, like you have to have enough money because a lot of times you have to pay up front in the summer for your spots that you'll need in the winter. So if anybody's, and send us questions and Emily and I will happily answer them for you or anybody else, if you're going to go, it is a commitment. So, but I thought we should talk about that because I think that's kind of important information for everybody for sure. So back into your season. I know you had a great season. So you were getting into kind of what you were working on and achieving the season.
Yeah. So it was a year different from the past 2 years. I was at a different facility and training with somebody different. I was independent, but also at the same time focusing on training with somebody different, also focusing on different horses. And so the training, I've been training with Linda Zhang and focusing on a horse that I have that Linda works very well with. And then I have a nice 4-year-old that I acquired through a syndicate in the fall. So it's kind of a transitional year for me, not competing in CDIs because my horse Audi is actually now going to be we're pursuing juniors with my stepdaughter is riding him. And so that was hard for me to take a step back from him. And it's good. It's really good, but it was like really hard. And I was like standing there watching her compete and then I was crying. And I'm like, it should be easier, but I'm like really sad, but I'm happy. And, so it's really nice to see him doing that, but it's sort of a step for me, like to growing up a little bit. Cause I've had him, he's 17. I've had him since he was 2. And he's been kind of like my main man, but it's a healthy transition for me. And then my horse Bunny is what I've been trying to get. Sort of my goal is to get him to Grand Prix, and I sort of don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm very committed to just doing it the right way. And so Linda's been very helpful with that. So I did 3 lessons a week with Linda basically for 3 months, which was really, really, really good for me because when I'm up north, I see her kind of like 2 times a month, maybe 3. And so having that intensive time was unreal for me with this horse in particular, but Linda's helped me so much in my position and just being a more correct, effective rider. So that was really, really fun. And then I got to work with Christine Chard a few times with the 4-year-old, which was great to see her again. And she knows me well enough. So it was every time I saw her, it was very helpful. And then I had more horses than I've ever had, more clients there than I've ever had. And so the days were quite full, but was very constructive with the clients and setting goals for them and meeting those goals. So it was just a very good winter. It was nice to actually not compete as much, just because I love CDIs, but at the same time, they're really stressful and time consuming and expensive.
I was just going to say, don't forget expensive. Very expensive.
And so it's kind of, I was like, it's okay not to be doing that. Like I follow the results, every week I'm like doing what, and I pay attention to that. And so it was good for me to take a step back and do things a little differently. I felt like it was healthy. So it was very good. And at the same time, I'm really happy to be home. As they say, there's no place like home. I had a very productive, constructive winter.
And we were just going to talk about how it all kind of culminated in being chosen, or I don't know how those applications work, but you were able to ride with Jessica von Bredau-Verndl.
Yeah. So they had posted about the clinic, and the last time they did a masterclass was when Isabel was here, I think 2 years ago. And that clinic, that masterclass, they had opened applications. And so it was pretty clear that they were soliciting people to submit, videos. But with this clinic, with Jessica, they didn't do that. And so I just on a whim, I was like, I wonder who they're picking for this. And so I found just there was a contact form on the global website, and I sent in, my name, and I said, hi, I'm just interested to know if you're accepting applications for the masterclass with Jessica. And I got an email back from Thomas Bauer. He said, hi, Emily, what horse do you have? And I said, well, I have two, a 4-year-old that has a really good canter, and then I have a 12-year-old that has really good piaffe and passage coming. And so he said, send me the video of the 13-year-old, the 12 coming 13-year-old. And so I did. And then he said, hey, can I call you? Sure. So he called me, and I had said that the horse was, had the changes were sort of the tricky area. And he asked me some questions about it. And then he said, well, you're in. And I was like, I didn't think, I was like, huh? And he goes, hello? And I said, wait, what? And so I was like, well, that was easy. So I said, oh, that's great. Thank you. And so then they started a WhatsApp, chat with all the riders that were selected, including Jessica was on that, which was kind of fun. So there was just back and forth about, what we were going to wear and the schedule and everything. And so initially it was supposed to be that the international ring would be open for us to come over and ride in on Tuesday night. The clinic was Thursday night. And so, but no sessions with Jessica prior to Thursday. And then they contacted us on Monday saying Jessica wants to work with everyone. And, that we would do that Wednesday. So I was the first one, and she came on site. She came to everyone individually at their facility. And so I, being as she said, I'm very serious. She said, so, being the person I am, I braided my horse, and I looked really nice. And she was supposed
First
to
impressions, right? First impressions.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like,
look great.
When in doubt, look good. And
yes,
I think
exactly.
It was the one that braided.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed.
Correct.
Exactly.
Totally. So I was ready to go. And I always walk for 15 minutes before I ride. And so I was like, okay, she's coming at 8. I will get on at 7:45 and I'm good to go. And then I see it. She texted me. She's like, hey, Emily, I'm running early. Is that okay? And I was like, sure. Not really. But so I was like, yes. So I look, and there she is. And I was like, hi. And she came with her dad, and Karen, Thomas's wife, brought her. And so it was the three of them. And she was super nice and down to earth. And I said, I was just about to get on. And I said, is it okay if I, walk him for 15 minutes? And so I thought at the same time, I'm I have a routine and it works. And I don't want to be a jerk, but at the same time, I'm I don't want to be rude and be I don't want to keep you waiting. But she was totally fine. And she had allowed a lot of time. And so we just talked, and she asked me questions, and we were talking about Florida and the barn and you know, where I'm from, and just like, she just totally put me at ease. And it's hard, like with somebody like that. It's like, I've met like a lot of presidents in my life, which not many people can say, but I've met like a lot of like pretty important people.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah,
you got to tell us which presidents.
So,
who'd you meet?
So I've met like Obama 3 times, maybe 4 times. I've met Bill Clinton. I've met George Bush. I've met Dick Cheney. I've met Joe Biden. I've met Michelle Obama. I've met plenty of like congressmen and senators and everything. So anyway, so like, and I've met like plenty of professional athletes. I'm not name dropping, but at the same time, I've been around people, right?
That's
that
cool.
are like a big deal. And I can be like a total nerd about people like that. Like I have the biggest crush on Sidney Crosby, finally met him, totally blew my opportunity to get married to him because I was a but
we've been talking about this for years.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, let it go. So anyway, so here's Jessica, and she made me feel totally fine. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be too casual, right? And but she was great. So like easy to talk to, and it was like a fabulous lesson, really fabulous. And so then we came up with a plan for Thursday, and she did a really good job of sort of working through, you know, how to show some good stuff, that the, you know, strengths, and then at the same time, how to tactfully get into things that are maybe a little bit more delicate. Yeah, she was lovely. I was like, can I get a picture? And, you know, I thought I'm not going to be shy. And she does tons with her, like she manages her own social media, which I think she does very well. And so then the clinic Thursday, I was the 3rd rider to go. And I had taken Bunny over there on Tuesday night to see the venue, and he couldn't care less, which I was shocked about. And so I felt really good about it. It was one of those things where this is the type of horse, like this horse, to be honest, a year ago, like he was jumping out of the ring at Legacy Farm. Like, you know, Lars was like, sort of at a loss about what to do with him. He really was. And I mean, Lars even said to me, you know, you couldn't give him away. And, you know, it was things were like that bad. Linda worked very well with him, and it was just finding the right person for this horse and the right approach. And so it was really amazing for me to have this horse that I had really hit rock bottom with, completely hit rock bottom, and to be able to put him into a venue like that in front of all these people with a person like Jessica and have it go so positively. And it's a testament to Linda and the training she's done with me, because I was totally at a loss with this horse. And I always knew he had ability and talent because he could pee off like a freak. But at the same time, you know, we were losing our marbles with flying changes. And so we really did have to take it all the way back to like to scratch and start all over. And so I made it clear to Jessica that we're at just like a stage of training right now where we are still in a rebuilding process with him, but it's good enough to do like single changes, you know, and the sequence changes, we can do sequence changes, but it's like, it's not the prettiest thing. And it's something I certainly wouldn't want to do in public just because it's inevitable. People will be critical. It's just, people are human. And I kind of felt insecure enough that I didn't want to be judged. And so Jessica was very respectful that way. And so she gave me a good exercise where we used medium canter down the long side, put the horse in a haunches and create a working canter pirouette. And so we used that. And then we started to incorporate a single change, which then you would, you know, immediately land from the change and sort of develop a working canter pirouette. And so that exercise was really good because with my horse, he can get very strong and he can talk me into holding him in the hand, and then he just gets shorter in the neck. And so she really emphasized using my core and getting him more on my feet, which, you know, I know, but it's very hard with this horse to do that. And so, but it was a fabulous exercise, and she just kept emphasizing to me getting him longer in the neck, allowing him the hand, and just getting him more on the feet. And so we did some other exercises. In the warm-up, we did leg yield into a shoulder 4 in the trot work. And then she talked a lot about, which was something Lars has talked about with me in the past, was just getting a little bit more looseness with the whip on his back. And that's something Linda and I have done, but more in a playful way. And just of getting him to let go. And it's pretty funny because Jessica said she zeroed in on the fact that I'm very serious, and I am, but I'm like, wait, you're a German telling me I'm serious? And I was like, hot calling the kettle black, like, like, hello, like that's such a, I know it's a stereotype, but it made me laugh where I'm like, wait, like you're a German gold medalist, like you guys are known to be like serious and hardcore, and you think I'm serious? And so it was pretty funny.
that means you're too serious, right, Emily?
Yeah.
Correct.
Whoa.
I was, like, way too serious. So I was like,
you're like a 10 on the scale of seriousness, I suppose.
Exactly.
She's like an 11.
So,
Jessica's
11.
a 10.
Yeah. So I thought it was pretty funny, and it made people laugh. But she did say, like, and I'm much better. Like when I ride on my own, I talk a lot. But it's always like in a lesson, I get a little shy with somebody I don't know. But she was good about poking me a little bit to like loosen up a little bit. And so then she did say, like, your horse is shadowing you. He is very serious too. And I was like, wait, if only you saw him. Like, this is a horse that was like, very expressive. And so now he's channeling himself in a way that he's more composed. And so it was really cool to have somebody that doesn't know us give us their take on us, and it made me laugh just because we've come pretty far. Because if you ask somebody that question, if somebody that knew us 2 years ago, 3 years ago, would have been like, you're out of your mind. He's psychotic. And so it was great. And it was fun.
That's nice. It's a testament to, how far you've come, and just always reminding us to look at our riding and our horses with a fresh set of eyes and all of those things. And then the other thing that you were talking about is just, what it takes for, to make a complete Grand Prix horse, because a lot of them are really specialists at certain things, and then are very frustrating and very difficult to ride. You can ride all the way up through, I think I1. And as soon as you need to do the Piaffe Passage and the ones, it can all kind of fall apart, or you can have one part of it really good, and then other parts of it, like your trot tour can be awesome, and then your canter tour is no good, and then so you work on your canter tour, and then the trot, like a Grand Prix horse, really has to have no faults, no trouble in the training, and and you don't know that until you kind of. You spend 9, 10, 11 years if you're lucky, and then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, these are. It's just so challenging for riders and horses, and riders can be a little bit of specialists in themselves, and then if the horses are good at that but not at other things, then a rider has to go back and really start from the basics and learn how to do, whatever it is, the ones or twos or. It's so hard. It's hard. Yeah. I think people, I feel like every year I just think, gosh, you realize what you didn't know. And you also realize, one, the more you learn, the better you get, and you start to figure things out. But at the same time, just like I look at people like Isabel, right, that just develop horse after horse. And in many ways, I think once you've developed horse Grand Prix, it's easier. But at the same time, you have to get lucky. You have to have the right horses, and there's so much that goes into it. But I think you gain confidence with every step, every piece of that Grand Prix horse that you can sort of figure out. It makes you better, and it makes you better at training every other horse you sit on. And like that for me is the cool thing. I've never been one of these people that like has like tons of really crazy fancy horses at my disposal. And I feel like I've made do with everything I've had. Bunny was given to me. He was given to me as a number 3-year-old. And then I just really enjoyed the process of developing him. And he's actually quite a nice horse, but he's not like a superstar, but I find the challenge to be worth sort of pursuing and sticking with. And it was nice to have, somebody like Jessica acknowledge, some good qualities. And she even said that his Piaffe was too
like, it was basically, she said, it's like too technically correct. And I was like, who said that? You know, like
what?
But she was basically like, make it more playful. And so I got what she was saying. It's like, it's too textbook. And I was like, cool, you know, like, and that's sort of like my approach to him has been relaxation and calmness. And so I'm like, okay, he just needs to be good in this work, and then we can make it fancy. But, you know, so it was funny to have her say that. And it was nice. Like, I was like, okay, like I've done a good job with that. Now I can.
It's almost a compliment, right?
To make it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge compliment. And then you're like, okay, I can work with this. I can fix this and play with this a little bit more.
Right.
So it makes total sense.
So
I love it. Well, Emily, it was so fun to see you ride, and it was so fun to see him, and it was fun to see, because, you know, that is, it is gutsy. Like you said, like, to do that, you have literally all of Wellington watching you. And so it's not an easy thing to go take a horse and hearing, she presented it a lesson that was great. And you guys, you know, which was nice. And she did that with everybody too. And I like that. She didn't really try to get into anybody, which is nice, because nobody really wants that. Yeah. So that was really nice.
I think she handled the clinic really well, and that, you know, I was, in my mind, I was a little like, oh, it was short. Like, I wish we did more, but I think she was very appropriate, because she, you know, she wasn't going to get into stuff. And I read the, you know, the articles about Isabel's masterclass, and that was definitely a different tone. I didn't get to go to it, but I've read those reports.
It was a different tone.
Definitely different.
Yeah,
totally.
It was different.
Jessica. Yeah. And I think Jessica, she's younger. I think she has a totally different approach to, like, her training. And I think she did a very good job of getting her approach across to the Americans that were there, and to the American audience. And I think her sort of takeaway messages were very clear. And I think it was all positive. It's nothing that nobody could go home and apply, you know, to their own riding, and get confused about, you know, so.
Yeah, it was great. Well, you did a fantastic job. And if people want to hear more about you and your horses and in the clinic, how can they find you online?
So I'm on typical social media, Facebook, Instagram, under my name, Emily Donaldson Dressage. And I have a website, which I'm terrible at maintaining. So Instagram and Facebook are the easiest bets for getting in touch.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Emily. We can't wait to keep in touch.
Thank you.
The Horsemanship Radio podcast is dedicated to the advancement of great horsemanship throughout the world. Monty Roberts often stops by to present on this podcast, hosted by his daughter and legacy strategist, Debbie Roberts-Laux. The show includes segments, tips, and interviews exploring effective training centered on the well-being of the horse. This multiple award-winning podcast has 1.6 million downloads to date. HorsemanshipRadio.com, sponsored by Hands On Gloves and Monty Roberts University.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have truly one of our friends and one of our favorite guests back on the show, Megan McIssac. She's from Wisconsin. She's a USDF 4th level certified instructor, FEI rider and trainer, and we adore her. Megan, welcome back to the show.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for having me on. I love to be talking about horses with you guys. Woohoo!
I know, we love it. Literally, we would talk about this topic, all of us, with a glass of wine, maybe a bottle. And so it's so fun to have you on, because this has come up a few times sort of between us and situations. And we feel it's really important to talk about some etiquette. We're going to talk about etiquette when you want to go buy a horse and etiquette when you're selling a horse, because I think it's a really important topic. The three of us we've all had to do both. And you know, I think sometimes the etiquette is overlooked. So let's start talking about, buying horses. If you want to buy a horse, let's start with the etiquette of that. So I'm going to let you get started.
Sure. I first recommend talking to your trainer. I myself talk with my mentors when I'm going out looking at horses, because I will buy everything. And I'm a trainer. Right. You know, I am just like anyone, a newbie. I mean, because I love horses and I want to have them all, maybe they're pretty, maybe they have a nice trot, but then let's say they're not really through on the outside rein. They're not really supple, or who knows why. And actually, I recently had a horse I was looking at to buy for resale. And I had my coach look at the video and she was like, no. And I would have bought the horse. And I'm glad I listened to her in the end. So step number one, I think, talk to a trainer that you work with that knows your riding abilities. If you don't have a trainer, talk to a friend. However, usually they are enablers.
Well, and management style.
All the
Megan,
best friends are enablers.
All the best friends. Well, Phil's not an enabler. I use him all the time. He's not an enabler.
So,
he's like your coach. Like, he's tough. But I also wanted to add in their management style. That's really important, because if you have your horses on 24 hours a day turnout and you're looking at a horse from Europe that hasn't been in a field in 10 years, that could be an issue. We're not talking, this is not a discussion on management. This is just the reality. That horse has been in a stall in Europe. You're going to ship it to America and put it on 24 hours a day turnout. That animal is not used to that. So I think you have to be really honest with your management. Do you have a trainer all the time? Do you haul in for lessons? AKA is putting a horse on a trailer, a really important thing, because a lot of my students haul by themselves, which, I don't love, but a lot of them don't have the ability to have someone with them all the time. So, that needs to play into this factor. Like, can the horse load? Can the horse be safe? Maybe that isn't the fanciest horse, but it's something that you're going to be successful with. So I think someone that your friend, ideally a trained coach who's done this before, who can really help point you in that direction of, hey, that horse, you're looking at a video, or maybe that it's truly not your horse. And I think you also said something super important. You can see we're very passionate about this topic, everybody. So you're going to hear some opinions of ours. But truly being honest about your riding ability. And that would be the same for the three of us on this conversation. When we buy horses, truly, what is your riding ability and what are you able to deal with, truly able to deal with? And that may be some soul searching. I have a specific client who's older, and what we would have looked at 20 years ago and what we did look at 20 years ago, she's been a longtime client, is very different than what we're looking at for now, because she's 20 years older. And I think that is such an important thing that you just said. And really,
being realistic. The other thing regarding that as well is I have riders that are pleasure riders. Their goals are to have fun with their horses. And sometimes the horses that are most suitable with them actually have issues, like on the X-rays. I think this is a huge hot topic. We don't ride X-rays, and I think I can't speak for, but Olympic horses, they probably have issues on the X-rays, may have issues with flexions. So I think being very realistic on what the goal is and whether the horse is suitable for our needs. We do not. I think first and foremost, there are no horses that have a clean pre-purchase. And actually, I'm more suspicious when they do.
And I think that brings up a really important point. All right. So, you've got your trainer, you're realistic about what you're looking for. And, a horse that's going to have some miles and probably going to be good about getting on and off the trailer and have some experience is going to be older. And so you need a veterinarian here. This is important. And in my vet, we actually tease her. I call her the dream killer because she'll kill some dreams quick. But, if she's saying, leave it alone, then I leave it alone. And she will say, we can manage that. Like, as that horse ages and as we're going to have that horse over his career, we can take care of that problem, or do not go anywhere close to it. And my vet, she's very good at a lot of things, but she is incredibly good at pre-purchases because she and knock on wood, she's not, she has been correct with horses we purchased. That's a big knock on wood. Last year, I was looking at a young horse and we took a lot of x-rays. That horse made it all the way to the last x-ray. And she said, whoa, whoa, no. And this is why. And it was heartbreaking. But she's like, yeah, that'll be way more heartbreaking. And after you put 5 years and that kind of money into it. So I think that's really important, but also a veterinarian that will be realistic, not just fail it, the horses. They sort of, this is not a time you want a new veterinarian and maybe you want a second opinion or a third opinion, get somebody who looks at European horses. If you're going to European horses, or thoroughbreds are going to have very different x-rays than warm bloods. Yeah. So, and I'm from a place that has a lot of thoroughbreds. That's why I say that. So if we get a racehorse vet to look at those x-rays, they're going to have a lot of different things to say than somebody that looks at those x-rays all the time. So I just think your team is so important. Phil, what do you think?
Well, I mean, in my experience, one of my students comes to me and says, I'm thinking about looking for a horse. I think I need a new horse, or, whatever. And then I say, well, I talk about, what it costs for me to consult on this project.
Yes.
Right. And then I say, listen, you can look at, you are in charge of scouring the internet, but send everything to me first. Mm-hmm. Then I can, yes or no, or whatever. But I always find it's easier if if I am the contact person to, see the video, say, oh, that, that's interesting. And then if I don't know the person, which I mean, Reese and I know a lot of people. So yeah. If I know the person, I can just message them. So much is done just kind of through friends or through networking, to say yes or no on a horse, and somebody will be, they'll just be like, no, I tell them what I'm looking for, and I know the person and I trust them, and they say, no, I don't think this is for you or for your student or your client. Boom, that's over. That's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to look at a video or whatever, and then call the person and set it up to go see it first. And then, I think there's a lot of time wasted in just, and pay your coach, however they do that deal, you're going to save money in the end. Yeah. And then, and your coach can be involved in the talking about, with the vet about the pre-purchase, and say, and then you're just involving more people, you're getting better advice, and it's going to be worth it.
Yeah. Can we talk about commissions for a second, Megan? And we don't have to disclose exactly what we do with our clients. That's not where I'm going with this, but I think this is really important to understand before you get a huge bill, or before, trainers are paid commission. This is not free money. And there's a lot that
the advice is not free, and the time is not free. The advice is
not free. Right. We have, all three of us have put in our lifetime. This is our career, and you are paying us for our advice. You're also paying us so that you don't get into trouble. Now, that doesn't mean it's always going to happen that you buy something that, but if you do pay a commission to a person, in my opinion, that trainer has to help you get out of a situation if that situation arises. They got to help you.
There's someone accountable for the decision that you make.
That's right.
At the end of the day,
right? Listen to them.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's really the client's decision. However, I think it's in their best interest, first of all, to have a conversation, right? What are the goals? What is the budget for the horse? What is the budget when the horse is purchased? And those things, I actually go to dinner with my clients, and we talk about it. We talk about the price of the horse, the price of the tack, the price of the vet, the training fees, monthly training fees, as well as the commission and what that commission includes. And then I think you have really two types of clients. The one that is all hands-on, and then the other that is, I want you to take, the trainer, to take more of an active role and find the horse. I've had both. And I think some people really enjoy that process. I think other people do not. I think it's easier, obviously, to have a trainer because there's the network. I think the other thing that happens a lot that's really important is talking about the commission and how many commissions are involved. Because when I sell horses, you'd be surprised how many other trainers out there ask me for a commission when they're bringing a client to me. And I think that's actually technically fraud. However, we're not going to go into that, but I think if the client knows that their trainer, they pay their trainer and the trainer is getting paid by the seller, I think that's legal. But I think it's important to ask the seller what's going on.
Write it down. I think that's important too. It's not just, and I do the same thing, Megan. We go to dinner but we write it down on a piece of paper, like where I type it up and we have a contract of this is what it is. And the other thing I think when you talk about budget, this is a big topic to me. If you talk about budget, you have to be realistic with the current market value of what those horses are going to cost.
Yes.
Because horses cost.
You can have a look around on your own a little bit too. Yeah. But again, if you're your trainer, if you're going to involve a trainer, they want to have their advice heard.
Sure. They're going to, and you want your trainer to like the horse you purchase. That is actually important.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole team effort, right? But the budget has to be realistic. And the reason I say that specifically is the price of horses today is significantly different than it was even 2 years ago. What was on the market 2 years ago is due to COVID and how horses were sold and purchased. That money is different. And I hate it. And I think we all hate it. But I happen to be working on budgets today for price of bedding. That's not what it was 2 years ago. Like you have to be realistic and you have to really think about that and know what's going on there. And, what the budget has to be realistic of what you want. So if you want a Grand Prix horse, you're going to probably pay for that, or you're going to have to maintain a really old one. But, to go with a small budget, it just doesn't happen. Like, it's just, that's what everybody wants, So whatever you're looking for, you have to be realistic with the budget and then do your own market research, go and online and look. I mean, the prices are pretty transparent. And the other thing, this is absolutely a pet peeve of mine, is if somebody's asking $100,000, for example, don't ask that person if they'll take 35, and that's a drastic change, but they may be negotiable, but that's not the kind of negotiable they're going to be more than likely.
Yeah.
What would you say? Yeah. Does that make sense what I'm trying to describe?
I think you're just trying to say, don't look at horses out of your budget that would sound perfect for you. And, and start messaging people like, oh, will you take that's not the point. It's got to be close to your budget. And then the negotiations can happen after that. But, if that's unrealistic.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Megan,
yeah. I mean, I think every seller should be upfront and say either the price is firm and the buyer should ask, or the price is slightly negotiable. And that means like maybe $5,000. I've been offered 2/3 price of a horse one time. And I was like, I'm not even going to counter offer. I think sometimes how people negotiate is also unrealistic, be upfront, and if you're only looking for a horse to lease, don't be looking at horses that are for sale, that kind of thing. Like, be a good buyer. And the other thing too, if you want to ride a fancy horse, but you may not have the budget, then just approach a trainer like myself and say, hey, may I just take a lesson and pay you for your time? I'm actually open to things like that. I've actually had many people like come out, try my horses, and then I never get a call, a text, an email saying thanks for your time. And I'm like, seriously, all you have to say is no,
Yeah, that it's like, so rude to the trainer, but also
so rude.
And also the horse. Those horses, a lot of times they get tried a lot, and that is really difficult on horses. So if you're buying a horse and you can't afford it, it's like going to look at a car. I can't sit in a Ferrari because I can't afford a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm going to sit in it. I'm probably going to like it. I'm going to be like, this is lovely, but I can't afford that car. Right. So they're not even going to let you in the door because, well, I can't go in there. Right. So that's actually important to know and be respectful, not only of the trainer, but respectful of the horse. And I get really angry when people come and they just want to sit on a fancy horse, or I will not let my clients do it. I won't, and a lot of trainers will.
Yeah.
If
from the seller side, when somebody contacts me about a horse that I may have for sale or I might be involved with, I say, my first question is, do you have a trainer? Why don't you have your trainer, message me or whatever? And so, I prefer to deal with, trainer to trainer, or, again, because I know a lot of people and said, like, your client, Susie, just messaged me about trying this horse. Do you know that she's out there trying horses? Okay. Do you know that she's out here trying $100,000 horse? That kind of thing. And that, again, that just eliminates all of the problems that I've encountered, is just dealing trainer to trainer from the buyer side and from the seller side. It's just the way I would prefer to do it. That's just how I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as a buyer, if you are just upfront and you're approaching people, you say, I'm looking at multiple horses. And then, after the first trial, if you're interested, tell the seller. If you're not, tell the seller, and if you can't do it face to face, drop an email, drop a text. It's really simple. I really appreciate that. Sometimes I've had multiple people come and try horses, and I don't like pitting people against each other, but I have noticed people seem to be more eager to buy the horse when you tell other people are looking at it. And I personally prefer it to be a good match and be a successful sale. And so because when someone comes to try, I give them like a day or two and like, okay, are you going to say yes or no? And then you don't hear from them. It's really aggravating because as in the past, I've even had someone, contact me a week later saying they're interested. And I was like, I waited, but I have someone else interested. I also email and call them and I don't get a response. And it really is frustrating. The other thing too, though, is if you really are interested, put a deposit down, which is typically 10% of the purchase price of the horse. So that way the seller knows that you are serious. However, when you're communicating about that, if the horse does not pass a pre-purchase, the money should be given back. However, if you're just holding the horse and then you decide that you're not interested, that money should be paid to the seller because they have held the horse for you when they could have sold the horse. I think that should be very clear. So if you do try a horse and you haven't put a deposit down, that person should be able to sell the horse to someone else because you waited.
Right. And in this market right now, in this market right now, the good horses are selling really fast. So you really, they're sold within the first couple weeks, typically.
Or they're sold within barns or within connections, right? Like they're not even getting advertised.
Right. Yep. So, nor should the seller have to wait. And that seller, we all have, horses are like horses. We know horses, they can get hurt. They also cost money every day to take care of them and all the things that go along with that. And you have staff that you have to hire, it goes on and on. Right. So it's one of those things where you really have to be just kind and ethical on both sides of the deal. Remember that you're buying a horse. It's not a motorcycle. That horse also is, once you purchase it, and this is maybe another discussion, Megan, for another time, but when you purchase a horse, that horse's everything in that horse's life is getting changed. And sometimes horses need time to settle. They're going to travel far. Their tummies may get upset. Like, you have to be very empathetic from the horse leaving usually a professional's barn, going to another professional's barn or your private barn or whatever. That's also part of it too, is horses have to have time and be able to acclimate. So it's a complicated process. And I think just, all what we are saying in this discussion as well is be kind, be courteous to the other parties, courteous to your own trainer who's taking their time. When you are contacted to help sell a horse, it takes a lot of time. And it's, all of us. I mean, it takes time on either end. And I think it's just really important to remember that, and just some basic etiquette things that we all need to go by. So Megan, we could keep you on the line for hours, but we know you've got a lesson. So we want to thank you so much for your time. And how can our listeners find you online and find more about your program and your sales program?
They can check out my website at lindenhof.com, and that's spelled LINDINHOF as in Frank. I'm also on Facebook as Megan McIssac or Lindenhof Equine Sports Centrum. You can contact me through text or calling me 608-445-8531 or email. And it's LINDINHOFLLC@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Phil, I love our picture of my two boys and their Trust Design halters. We were able to unbox them in Florida together, which was super fun. And we did the photo shoot where, no offense, my boys were way easier to photograph than Phil. You can check out the picture on our Dressage Radio Show Facebook page. My boys were great. Philip was not a great model, but we got him to smile eventually.
Well, it's not about me. It was about displaying the beautiful halters and the beautiful horses and your smiling face. I mean, I'm just in the background here, so don't worry about that. Yeah, we'll push you back. But these are great halters. We're all kidding aside. My boys look so pretty in their halters, and it was so fun. They're really a fun addition to your equipment, and we have a discount code, right, Phil? Yep, you can get 10% off any of your order through Trust Design. The coupon code for all of our listeners is HRN, and that'll give you 10% off. So go ahead, order some halters, get a 10% off of them, and have a great summer. So that's Trust Design, TRVST design.com. Well, tonight for our Trust Equine Tip of the Week, we are so excited to have S-Judge and USDF certified instructor Gwen Ka'avaloa back on the show. Welcome, Gwen.
Hey, good to hear you again.
And we are happy to have you for our trainer tip of the week. And we had you put your certified instructor hat on, but you also have the judge's hat. So tell us, what is your tip?
My big tip is that riders need to spend more time on their equitation, and they need to work with trainers who care about that, mainly because riders, when they get into the ring, whether they're showing or they come for a lesson, it's not about riding the movements and the figures. If you're not in balance with the horse, none of that works. And so as trainers and as a rider, you need to think about the equitation piece. Even going back to lunging, which a lot of adult amateurs don't spend a lot of time lunging anymore. I'm fortunate as a trainer that my students love lunging, and they often remind me that it's been a while. And I'm a fan of lunging. I'm a fan of getting out there and learning how the balance works when you do a circle, when you do a half pass. We all know that half passes are one of the hardest things to ride, and counter canter. If you don't have good equitation, counter canter does not work. And it's usually because the rider can't sit, because that's probably the most difficult movement if your equitation is not good. So my tip is spend time getting your seat better.
Well, and I think this is something, I mean, we all, as Grand Prix riders on the program tonight, this is something I work at all day long. And, we have different tools. We have Wendy Murdoch, the Murdoch method that comes on. We have given and try to give people a lot of ideas when it comes to working on your seat. And I think some of it is, and I feel it as my body's gotten older, I've had different equitation challenges and fitness. It all plays into part of having the correct equitation, and you really have to work on it. And I think you're right. I mean, I think it's something that if you don't focus on and your trainer doesn't focus on, and I've heard it, I think we probably all have heard it when someone says, "Oh, no one's ever said that to me. I've never worked on that equitation." And I think too, even if you're in your arena by yourself, there's video systems now. Video yourself, look at yourself. I mean, I think that there's, I put up mirrors in my ring. I just saved one winner to get those up there, but there's a reason that they're there. And so that, you can look and you can see. So I think lunge lessons are incredibly important. And through the certified instructor program we all learn how to lunge appropriately, because lunging someone, there's a technique that all instructors should know. But it's an incredibly cool tool. And, if you have a good friend that's a good horseman as well, they can help you. So I think it's a great tool. Phil, what do you think?
I think, you should be reading books that talk about equitation so that you understand before you ever even attempt your first yield half partial, you understand where the weight should be and how to weight bear and which legs do what, so that you're not lost when you try to do a counter canter. You at least have a mental understanding. And then we all know that the second piece of that is the physical feeling and understanding. But, you don't want to show up to a lesson without having, at least done some homework to, what's correct and what's appropriate. Otherwise, you just you spend your whole lesson talking about theory of counter canter and not actually doing it. So I think for me, that's a little bit of the homework piece that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I agree totally. Trying to get students to read. Some of the fun parts about Facebook are that somebody will publish a short little synopsis from an old book or a newer book, or just a little piece of the puzzle that has to do with equitation and quality of riding and figures. And I always share those and try to tag my students, look at this. Have you seen this recently? And one of the things USDF did many years ago, and I keep it down and protected in my tack room in my barn, is the USDF book that we had on dressage that had a ton of information. Some of it is, the tests are very old, but that book was a great handbook that USDF put out many years ago. And I don't even know if it's still available, but
they have,
books similar to that are good.
Yeah. And Gwen, they have a lot of resources on the website. So now they've moved a lot of it, a lot of those resources. I know the book you're talking about because I have it too, and it was great. Now those are available to members on the website, and there's so much great information out there now on the internet that wasn't available, or you had to have that book, and that was a good book. But there are a lot of those pieces now that are out there, and a lot of them are free of charge, or USDF, if with your membership, you have access to that information. You do have to look potentially, but also, and Gwen, you I know can talk about it, auditing the Learner Judge program is a great way to get some of this information. I mean, it's out there if you need it, isn't it?
It is. And auditing the L program, if it's offered in the area, I've had several students do that. It's an eye-opener as an instructor for your students.
Yeah.
They come back from that and they look at you differently when you give a lesson, because all of a sudden they're like, oh my, I had no idea. I think I do that. You've talked to me. But when they see it in that presentation, their perspective changes. I've had 2 riders totally change the quality of their riding after doing that program. And one of them did go on to finish the L program, and she judges horse shows and loves to do the schooling horse shows. I don't know that she'll move on, but that was another thing. The L program really gave her that insight. And with the certified instructors program, it just kind of, again, it kind of centralized everything and had everybody looking at things from the same perspective. I was very lucky that I rode with Anders Lindgren multiple times in the 80s. I had the opportunities to train under him very early on, and what a wonderful man and a wonderful teacher. And I still to this day use a lot of the lessons he gave to me in my current lesson program. And he was a big one about equitation and lunging the rider.
I love it. I love it. Well, Gwen, thank you so much for your tip. It's a great one for all of us to continue to think about and use. And how can our listeners find you online?
They can look me up at my website at Kaimana Equestrian, Kaimana Equestrian, and they can pull my website. It's not always up to date, but it's got all the information to reach me. Or you can email me at Kaimana_CO, like Colorado, at hotmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer questions or chat with them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, don't forget, we have our book club still running. We hope you're enjoying this one. This is a technical one. It's going to take you a couple weeks to get through it. So we're going to let it keep going. We've been busy with lots of interviews. So it's Gerd Huysman's Balancing Act. We hope you enjoy it. Keep plugging away at it. And we will definitely go through with one of the auditors from the radio show. We love having them on. And as always, send us your email and Facebook shout outs. We love them. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or you can email me at philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors tonight for allowing us to record a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and Trust Design. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.